The Black Renaissance emerged as a vibrant cultural movement, with the Harlem Renaissance standing as a prominent facet of this transformative period. The Harlem Renaissance marked the evolution of Harlem, New York City, into a significant hub of Black culture during the early 20th century. This social and artistic explosion spanned from the mid-1910s to the mid-1930s, heralded as the golden age of African American culture. It found expression through literature, art, theater, and music, leaving an indelible mark on history. Welcome to Beyond Limitation Podcast. I'm your host, and in this episode, we delve into the essence of the Black Renaissance, focusing particularly on the Harlem Renaissance. If you appreciate our content, please consider supporting us on Patreon and leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Also, don't forget to explore the cut for all your Black pop culture interests. In 1911, the heart of Black life in New York shifted to the downtown section of Midtown Manhattan, known as Black Bohemia, spanning from 27th to 53rd Street on the West Side. Black Bohemia, essentially a ghetto for African Americans, arose due to various discriminatory practices, including racial steering, redlining, restrictive covenants, violence, and white flight. This area became densely populated with boarding houses and tenement apartments, where Black families struggled to make ends meet on meager wages. In stark contrast, Harlem presented itself as a haven with well-paved streets, lined with trees, and adorned with elegant brownstones and apartment buildings. Its reputation blossomed in the 1880s when developers envisioned it as an upper-class enclave, far removed from the chaos of downtown Manhattan. However, the reality diverged from this vision. Despite massive investments and development efforts, Harlem became overbuilt, with apartment buildings sitting empty years before the completion of the subway. Philip A. Payton Jr. recognized the desperation of white landlords in Harlem and struck deals to lease properties above West 134th Street. Sensing the demand among middle-class Blacks seeking to escape Black Bohemia's overcrowding, Payton negotiated favorable rates, thus initiating a mass migration to Harlem. As African Americans moved in, white residents feared their neighborhood's transformation and organized to resist it. They formed holding companies and associations to buy properties and evict Black tenants. In response, African Americans fought back, with Payton establishing the Afro-American Realty Company to provide housing for Black tenants. Despite their efforts, white resistance persisted, fueled by racial prejudice and discriminatory practices. The pressure from the Property Owners Protective Association incorporated crippled African American real estate endeavors, making it exceedingly difficult for them to thrive in Harlem's hostile environment. The struggle for racial equality and housing rights in Harlem during the Black Renaissance encapsulated the broader challenges faced by African Americans in the early 20th century. Despite adversity, the cultural vibrancy and resilience of the Harlem Renaissance continue to resonate, leaving an enduring legacy in the annals of history. Enraged by the company's collapse, Philip A. Payton Jr. decided to retaliate against the white residents of Harlem. Teaming up with C.J. Thomas, a prosperous undertaker, they purchased 2 5-story apartment buildings, evicting the white tenants and installing Black tenants. Another real estate firm, led by 2 salesmen from the African American Realty Company, Johnny Nail and Henry C. Parker, followed suit, acquiring a row of 5 apartment buildings and repeating the process. Next, they collaborated with the Philip Protestant Episcopal Church, one of the oldest and wealthiest African American congregations in New York, to purchase a row of 13 apartment buildings on 135th Street. The church also evicted the white tenants, renting the apartments to Blacks. By 1910, tensions between the white and Black communities in Harlem had reached a breaking point. With the slums of Black Bohemia as their only alternative, Blacks intensified their efforts to move into Harlem. They not only continued renting apartment buildings outside the segregated zone east of Lenox Avenue, but also began purchasing fine private dwellings west of 7th Street. In response to this influx, white residents started abandoning the neighborhood. House after house, apartment building after apartment building was deserted. White owners who resisted selling to Blacks suffered the most. Soon, their properties lay empty, their white tenants having fled. Ironically, By the time of the Great Migration, Harlem became a popular destination for migrants and real estate prices in the area began to soar. By the 1920s, estimates placed total black ownership in Harlem at $200 million, equivalent to almost $1.8 billion today. During this period, black pride surged, as a new race consciousness centered on self-worth emerged in all aspects of black life. This shift in thinking manifested nationally, particularly in music, art, theater, and literature. When the United States entered World War I, W.E.B. Du Bois called on African Americans to set aside their grievances and stand united. This change in attitude was reflected on a national stage, particularly in cultural fields where African Americans began to assert their identities more boldly. One of the pivotal books leading to this artistic explosion was Jean Toomer's Cain, one of the first books by the white establishment to depict black characters and culture authentically, rather than as caricatures. This shift marked a departure from earlier portrayals and signaled a new era of African American expression. Before their breakthrough into the mainstream, African American art had been quietly assimilating into American culture, often without recognition. Plantation songs, ragtime, blues, and jazz had been embraced nationally, yet the artists behind them remained on the periphery. Langston Hughes, in his essay The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain, challenged black artists to embrace their racial identity and express their experiences fearlessly. This call for authenticity laid the foundation for the Harlem Renaissance, where artists like Hughes, Wallace Thurman, Zora Neale Hurston, and others sought to depict the realities of black life. Despite its challenges, the Harlem Renaissance saw significant advancements in various artistic fields. Theater, in particular, underwent a transformation, with African American playwrights like Willis Richardson advocating for authentic representations of black life on stage. In the visual arts, Aaron Douglas emerged as a prominent figure, using African motifs and symbolism to capture the spirit of the Harlem Renaissance. His work, along with that of others like Meta Warrick Fuller, challenged stereotypes and contributed to a new perception of African American art. However, the economic downturn of the Great Depression dealt a severe blow to the Harlem Renaissance. As jobs became scarce and poverty increased, the momentum of the movement waned. Divisions within the community also emerged, with younger artists pushing for more radical expressions of blackness, while older, established figures favored a more conservative approach. Despite its decline, the legacy of the Harlem Renaissance endured, paving the way for future generations of African American artists. The movement may have ended, but its impact on American culture and society was profound, shaping the course of history for years to come.